Hello.
Hello, my man.
Hello.
Oh, you're there. Good.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, quite all right.
Nice,
Uh,
nice.
Recovering a bit. My mother-in-law passed away yesterday,
Oh,
uh,
wow. Okay, sorry to hear that.
but I'm kind of recovered. Or yeah, of course, there are things to take care of and manage, but that's quite all right. She was quite old, so
Ah, okay.
it wasn't so unexpected.
Yeah, I had one of my good friends just lost a friend actually. He was at
Oh,
his
wow,
funeral.
that
Yeah,
that's tough.
he actually ended up passing away due to alcoholism. He was a really bad alcoholic, so apparently
Oh,
had like liver issues.
yeah.
So yep. All right,
Yeah,
let's hear. Yeah, I saw your comments as well.
yeah.
So on the proposal, on the links proposal. So I think I think making it an optional field as well as doing it with the separated links, I think is the best path forward. So I think that at least will give us a little bit of understanding, like when people start to use it, like what they prefer, and and so on and so forth. So yeah, I really like that approach. Um,
Yeah, that might make it easier to get to it. I mean, and to get it merged and see that we can have it included, because it seems to be quite hard to find some consensus on this. I'm actually a bit concerned that there are so few that have any any real comments or thoughts about this, really. And I would assume that it might be because the things we talk about are maybe too complex to digest and to see, unless we have
yeah,
it hands-on, So maybe we would need to provide multiple ways, so in this case maybe two ways then, and then provide some hands-on usage of it and demos and so on. We can discuss that, and maybe then easier reach a consensus on what is the recommended or best way forward.
Yeah, so internally at Apple, because like I said, I've shown this proposal to several people or several teams because they're interested in using CD events, and they're most interested in like having the events connected.
Right.
And originally they or some of the teams were in favor of like having them embedded. But when I started explaining, like I said, like the concept of like teams, with the fan out situation of like 1,000 artifacts, as well as having no control um of what service teams are going to be sending or dependencies that might be sending stuff, then they kind of understood, like, more the sending them separately, just to be it's as a more safeguard against potential like accidental DDoS essentially, because that's what
Okay.
happened to our
Yeah,
tracing.
sure. I completely get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, but I guess the DDoS could happen anyway with events as we have them today as well. I mean, anyone could use the event sending, so the events send
Yes,
event
but that would only affect the link service or the event bus potentially.
for the links,
But
yeah, for the rest of it. But yeah, sure, yeah.
but it
But
wouldn't.
let's kick off the meeting now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Get through it in the right order. So welcome everyone. I see Sean there as well. Nice to see you. I had hoped for some more participants, but that's not the case at the moment. So we'll cope with us then. So today is the 6th of November. Please register yourself to the HackMD note. I can't talk while I'm writing.
Typing, yeah. Okay.
Why is it +1 nowadays? Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is. After daylight savings ended.
Oh, I accidentally.
Ah, okay, no
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
So nice to see you all here, and let's kick off this meeting. So there is no really surprise, I guess, on the agenda. Maybe the most surprising thing is that Andrea is not here, but I guess you've seen that in the Slack channel as well. He's traveling to North America to the KubeCon as we speak. So she might be in the air right now. I'm not sure. So KubeCon, I think, starts tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Or if it was
Oh
either
yeah. Today is like the pre-sign up day or whatever it is. Yeah.
but tomorrow is really the real day, and then it's
Yeah.
I'm not fully up to date on what would happen on KubeCon with respect to CDEvents or the things we talk about here. Haven't heard too much about that, I'm afraid. But when talking to Andrea last week, it sounds like he will have some interesting discussion with people there, because there will be some people we know that are there. So that's good anyway to have him there, I think. Okay, so for nothing really new for the roadmap. The focus is, as we know, the connecting events, and potentially also something about secure supply chain of handling the S-bombs or such things, but that is not yet proposed, so we'll see what happens there. Then we have no action item here that I saw from last time. I'm not sure if this was done, Ben. Is this the front end request, is it right?
So yeah. So I got added as a maintainer for Spinnaker, so I can just add people now to be the reviewer. So rather than asking, I can just do that myself now. So I'll do that as we're talking. Actually, once I find the PR, I think Jolander sent it to me.
Great. Yeah. So then, yeah, once that is done, I guess you can yourself sign off here and say that's done.
Yep.
Cool. And then Oktoberfest, maybe this should actually be raised in a CDEvents meeting, but since we don't have a CDEvents meeting for some time, I think we maybe have one next week. But anyway, October has passed now, as you know, and I was actually looking into how the progress has been during Oktoberfest, because I haven't really heard anything myself from anyone really wanting to contribute or have any discussions on reviews or such. So I looked into the project we have, and unfortunately nothing here is done. There are a couple of items that are assigned. I think these two might have been assigned to Lander even before Oktoberfest started, but then I believe that these two was actually assigned during October.
Okay.
But I can't see any traces of any pull requests or anything being done here. It was just assigned there, and this one is also just let's here we have something actually. Placed his own personal repository, but no pull request created. So yeah, unfortunately nothing was merged, at least no changes there. So that's something we could maybe consider next October next year. Whether this
Mhm.
is something we should put time on or not, but let's come back to that then, I guess. Then I just added a heading here of integrations because I believe we talked about that a bit last time as well. And I did one small update to this GitHub project where I now added the GitHub Actions tab as well. These issues are not new at all. I just added them to the project so we can track them here in this project as well. But nothing has really happened to these anytime recently. So yeah, that's just the information that we have them there now. So we have quite a few projects here which have ideas on implementing CDEvents, but none of them, I guess, except Jenkins is really done. Because in Jenkins we have the plugin at the moment from Fidelity. So that's about that.
So one thing I want to bring up, because we have a goal for this quarter to do something with CDEvents code wise. So that was either to create a CDEvents like collector type thing, or an event bus, like the architecture of it, um or the links service. So it's any of those three. Is there any three that you guys would prefer that I kind of pitched to my manager?
Is that related to the mock that was discussed last time as
No, no,
well?
no. This is actual, like we
An
would
actual hardcore
yeah,
implement.
we would actually implement this. And then so like I said, it's for this quarter. So like
Yeah.
this quarter just started. So it might be like for 3 to 4 months from now that you'll see anything. But the idea is we would open source this back to you know, the CDEvents repo, and then see what you guys think.
Yeah. Could you repeat the different proposals you had there? Maybe you can.
Yeah. So it's any of the major pieces in CDEvents. So
Mhm.
it's kind of the event
Collect.
bus is one. So we would kind of architect like some sort of event bus, whether that is some service that talks to a pre-existing event bus like SQS or RabbitMQ, but just has an API in front of it, or another thing is a collector. So a thing that uh just makes load a little bit easier for the event bus. That's kind of the idea. And then the third thing would be the actual links service. So one of those three would be the thing that we actually implement.
So what would a collector be without the event bus then? I mean,
Yeah. So that's the
how would it
thing.
collect?
So
Right.
yeah. So the collector would be just something we would open source, and we would just like test it internally.
Okay.
And we would use probably just an event bus that we already have. But we
Okay.
couldn't open source. So that's kind of the idea
Ah,
there.
okay. Or open sourcing and a separate event
Exactly. A
bus.
separate, like, new thing. Exactly.
But I get this, the event bus would not be dedicated to city events. I mean, to me, it would just be a bus, or isn't it just like Kafka or RabbitMQ or something? Well, what would
Yeah.
it
So it would be that, except like it would have a little bit more. It would have a front end, or not front end, a layer in front of it, like an API layer.
to send them?
Yeah, that allows for like authorization, things of that nature, like different X509 or LDAP, or whatever.
Mhm.
So just kind of things of that nature. Like I said, we're still thinking about it. So usually how this works is we first choose one, then we write a design proposal on what all the things should contain, what is the scope, and so on and so forth. And that's something that we can probably share with you guys and see what works, in terms of being open sourced.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's kind of the idea here.
I'm thinking, since we are basing now currently at least on cloud events,
Mhm.
uh, I'm not really sung up there myself, but I guess there would be some demo environments that could be used with cloud events that they could actually today more or less authenticate towards and send events on, which could then be seed events. couldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure really what. I mean, with that, I mean, it might not give so much to just provide an event bus with authentication or authorization.
Mhm.
Obviously, the link service would be the most interesting to me, to me at least, to
Okay.
see, because then we would
Yeah.
see everything. But without having anything else there, how could we use that link service in an open source
Right.
community,
Right.
having anything else in the infrastructure in place, unless we then somehow describe how can we use this with this or that
Event bus.
cloud
Yeah.
event bus that already exists
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere in the demo environment. So yeah, the more, let's say, the more CDEvents near service, the more interesting, I would say. So
Mhm.
then the link service is, I guess, the most, well, the collector, of course, is also kind of, that would be like a database then of the
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
For me, I'm like curious. I guess I can go over each of one of these. For the event bus, I'm like curious what kind of decisions might go into designing a topology for CD events, as far as like what technologies would work best, like Kafka versus Rabbit or whatever. Whether everything should go to like one topic or one bus, or whether that should be split up, and then like I guess concerns for running CD events at scale.
Right. Yeah. We had the discussion a bit on the last meeting. I think you might not have been there, Sean, that week, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about that there is some idea on setting up a reference architecture within CDF actually,
Yeah.
where CD events would be part, and that would then include some kind of architecture on what is one proposed way to set this up and what event bus to use and so on. But I mean, from the protocol perspective itself, it shouldn't really matter. I mean, CD events, the protocol shouldn't matter, shouldn't bother. I mean, what kind of infrastructure it is used on.
Right.
But for sure, for users to start using it and to try it out, of course, it would be much easier to have a reference architecture of some kind out there.
Wait. So then, how would does the CD events SDK interface with any of these event buses though, or like how does the SDK work with like customizing where it goes to?
Yeah, it's the SDKs today are all based on Cloud Events SDKs, as far as I know, existing Cloud Events SDKs. So wherever those can send the events, the CDEvents SDK would also
Okay, cool.
like on a layer on top of the existing Cloud Event SDKs.
Okay, that seems simple enough.
I think so. Yeah. I think that all SDKs in CDEvents are done that way, at least. That was the intention, or I'm not sure if everyone is up to date with that, but I think so.
Right. Okay. Um,
Um,
okay, cool. Yeah, I'll talk to my manager a little bit about the link service, but also the collector is also really interesting.
What are you thinking
So
for the collector?
So collector is basically it's two separate things. Well, one is is like a middleman between the SDKs and the event bus. It's just to take load off of the event bus. So that's one way of doing a collector, and then the other thing that Emil was mentioning as well is that it's like the database, like what that looks like as well. So like how do you go about storing the individual CD events, the links, and so on and so forth. So so a lot of thought to be done there as well. So that's kind of like the idea for the collector. So there's kind of like two parts to it, or two
How does it
ideas. What was
how
that?
does it load off of the event bus?
So the event bus, rather than sending, like, let's say you're sending 1,000 events, like all, like, you have a lot of services all talking to this event bus. Instead, what you have is a distributed collector where they send it to this collector, and then, you know, it has a load balancer in front of it, and then kind of like, you know, sends it off into these groups, and then they bundle up all of these requests as one request to send to the event bus as a single request, essentially.
And then you have something on the other end to kind of unfurl that big request.
Yeah. Well, the idea is like the bulk APIs would be in place for that as well. So that's one idea. But also like Emilio said, is we also need something to like store events, which is the second way of thinking about a collector, which is very different than the like collector. So for storing events is like just knowing like you know, like how do we go about, you know, querying for these events, you know, these and linkings, and, you know, and how, you know, you know, like, do we make it, you know, DB agnostic? What I mean by DB agnostic is like, you know, is it NoSQL supported? Is, you know, SQL databases supported? You know, things of that nature. You know, which database, you know, works appropriately? Is SQL more is a better candidate for CDEvents, or is a NoSQL database better, document DB better for a CDEvent type?
I mean, the way some other tools do it is just have like different plugins for different databases, so that it's, you know, up to the user. Maybe they're a big, you know, Postgres shop, so you want to use Postgres even if it's, you know, not the best fit.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess one way to go ahead could be to have an API description for any kind of do the data store or an event store need to live up to, both when it comes to storing and querying for data. But then also, should such a storage contain just the raw event data, or should it also then maybe enhance the data or enhance the data stored there by following like references to other systems like GitHub or GitLab or such, Jira or whatever, and put that also in there, so you kind of cache store? Or is it, well, such things could be discussed in an event storage discussion as well, but you were referring to something slightly different than
for like, this is for like so I think that could be a fourth thing, is like event storage, right? But this was like, so generally, so this is mostly for scalability. You know, generally when you have you know, a lot of teams sending to an event bus, like that can be a huge amount of load, like individual amount of requests to a given event bus. So the idea is you would have a middleman collector where teams would send it to some load balancer, and these collectors would, you know, group up you know, many events and then send them as like one, rather than sending, like, let's say you had 1,000 separate requests. You send them all to a collector, you might have like only 10. It sends just 10 requests instead of the 1,000, right? Which is, you know, luckily the load should be small enough, hopefully, where it doesn't really impact it. But you know, having 1,000 small events could definitely cause a lot of, you know, just, you know, network, you know, just networking, you know, trouble, or not really trouble, but, you know, just what's it called?
So would you see then that the collector would listen for CDEvents or emit?
Yes, it would listen. It's just like a proxy, essentially, except it's a proxy that it's not really a proxy. It's something that consumes CDEvent or takes CDEvents, then sends them up to the collector as a bulk request, essentially. Sorry, not to the collector.
Request be? The request itself wouldn't be individual events, then it would be some collection of events, or
a collection, exactly, yes.
In what format would that collection be grouped?
Well, it'd either be the bulk APIs, or the event bus would need to know how to unravel that collection, as Sean had said. So that'd be like the two things.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, the storage does that. Maybe that's the event storage that unravels them.
Okay, I'm having a bit of a hard time to understand well, how the system would look with these collectors there that propagate something on another format than on a archived format or whatever, grouped format of the events.
Yeah. It could be, you know, group format, and you know, if this is another really good useful thing about collectors is that if the event bus ever changes where it actually has like a certain format that it needs to adhere to, the collector can actually bundle and change that format to satisfy that, send it, and then, you know, it can figure out how to peel the CD event away from that. Is another option as well. So that's another like side benefit, but I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue with our implementation, because we only have one, you know, it's just the cloud events protocol. So I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue, but that is one thing that could be pretty beneficial, is that if you need to adapt it to be something specific for the event bus or whatever it is that you're sending it to, it can do that as well. Which just takes off, you know, all that CPU power from the event bus and just makes it just an event bus. So any, you know, other logic that needs to happen, it can be done there.
So it's really like a distributed environment of
Exactly
buses where you like forward some information or forward a bulk of information instead of individual.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it's might be an interesting idea. I haven't really thought about that idea before, but yeah. So I'm not sure. Of course, you can go ahead with whatever if you see fit there. Maybe that's good towards your manager as well to have this open. But if you would like some more verdict or a recommendation from the community, maybe you should have a short paragraph for each of these, and then we can like vote on it on Slack or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah. Actually, for the collector, because that's more of an optimization, and I feel like we're at too early of a stage for that level.
So,
yeah. Let's take the collector out, because like it's too early of a stage to start thinking of that massive of a scale, and it's not complicated enough too. Like if we need it internally at Apple, we'll just make it, and then we'll open source it if other people need it. But it seems a little too early when we have more important, I think, higher priority services that are needing to be done, like the link service or the event storage. Like those two are the biggest ones I would imagine that need to be done.
Yeah. But regarding the event bus, isn't that so? I'm not sure exactly what you are after, that what you would add on top of, say, RabbitMQ, for example. I mean, isn't it that going with vanilla Rabbit would be quite okay as well, or
yeah, I think so. Let me see, because like, well, the thing is, right, like using AWS SQS, right? Does Cloud Events support that? I don't think it does it? Because that's using the AWS APIs. So the event, it would need to know how to, Cloud Events would need to know how to send it to that. Let's see, Cloud Events, AWS SQS.
Yeah, exactly. There is an issue about it.
Oh, there is an issue. Yeah.
Which is still open since 2019, it seems.
Okay, because this was the area where I was thinking about the event bus, was just AWS support, which I still wasn't sure how the SDKs were going to work with that, because more than likely we're going to use AWS, and so yeah. But you know, like I said, that would just be an update to, in this case, Cloud Events to support that, rather than like an event bus. Because like I said, my question was more along, how does it work with AWS SQS? That's what the question came down to, what comes down to with the event bus.
Yeah. exactly. That's here. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, here we have another one. And not too much has happened on
Yeah,
this.
movement, it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, so it anyway not sorted, and it seems so.
Yeah. But like I said, if SQS isn't supported out of the box, it's not hard to also set up like Kafka. Like Kafka is another one that we talked about. So
yeah. Okay, so yeah, good. But that would be great to see if you can spare some time to provide such an implementation in any of these. I would say any of these are interesting. So, yeah.
So I think what it comes down to
choose, please shout out in Slack and we can.
Okay, cool. I'll put the two. I think the last two are probably the most important, the link service and the event storage.
Okay.
So I'll just put, like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Well, I'll just do like yes or no for link service, no for event storage, or one or two, and then just do a vote that way, and kind of go from there. And see what people prefer.
Cool. Anything else when it comes to integrations then with CDEvents elsewhere?
No, I think
From
that was the
Bloomberg
biggest.
perspective, John, what are you most interested in? What kind of integrations are you most interested in?
Currently, I'm most interested in like GitHub and Jenkins, which sounds like it's already done. Yeah, those are the two big ones.
Have you started to look into the Jenkins plugin yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, because I would expect Fidelity to be keen on getting feedback from it as well there, if you look into it and see if it fits your purpose.
I will be sure to do that. Yeah, I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year to start actually looking into this stuff, and certainly the first quarter of next year.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm also really curious about GitHub, so we'll see.
Yeah, it seems there's very little progress there, unfortunately, so far.
Unfortunately,
we can't even use GitHub Actions, so I don't know if I'm gonna.
Yeah, we can't either. So you too, huh?
Yeah, so our implementation, like the way that's we use GitHub Enterprise.
Yeah, we use GitHub Enterprise,
like
but it's actually it's a security concern, which is why we can't use it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's security and the way everything is implemented, like the mode we have it implemented in just doesn't support GitHub Actions. But yeah, I think there was a effect in there as well. It's not like on premise or something. I don't know. Anyway, so maybe like a GitHub app to handle that.
There's also another solution, which is a custom GitHub web service, which GitHub supports. You can just or a webhook service. So you can just have like a server-based webhook service, which GitHub talks to and then just sends it that way. So that's another option. If we don't get GitHub Actions, my hope was, because we've been talking about getting GitHub Actions for like 2 years now. And every time they're like, oh, we're updating GitHub, then I always ask, hey, what about GitHub Actions? Or they're like, nope, still an issue. So I'm just like, okay. But if it comes around by the time we implement CDEvents, then we're just gonna have to go with the webhook.
So maybe just like a generic service that translates GitHub.
Yep, that's exactly what it'd be. Yeah.
CDEvents.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's this one way so far. So the idea here is more or less to just kick off something from a webhook. It's not to provide any feedback back to GitHub, I think, so far. Which will also be, but yeah.
That's what's good about a webhook service in GitHub. I don't know if you guys have played around with it before, but it's actually really powerful. So any event that gets sent to GitHub gets sent to this webhook service, completely supported by GitHub, and you can send information back up. So it supports both ways. So it's pretty.
But then it's not just a webhook. Then it's a bidirectional thing then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sorry, it's what, but I mean, you can send a response back. It's not async, is what I meant.
Yeah. But the asynchronous response then not
yes,
the
yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. But what about this? There's a self-hosted runner concept in GitHub as well. Isn't that something that you could use in your GitHub Enterprise setup, which would then execute the GitHub actions on your own whatever cloud where you want to run it, and then GitHub would just
we use that already internally. But what the webhook service is a little bit more flexible because the runner I think only works on pull requests and commits. Those are the two biggest ones. Which is fine for probably for CDEvents, but the webhook service allows for like everything, like anything that GitHub does, like it's going to send an event and that goes straight through to the webhook service. So that makes it a little, so if we ever do expand the source change or source, events that can be sent, that would already be supported. So that's one benefit there. But either one is completely fine, to be honest.
If we wanted to implement something like a service, like GitHub service, would you see that being part of the SDK or separate?
No, it'd probably be separate.
Yeah, it would be separate, I guess, as a landscape thing that is part of the setup, the reference architecture. Maybe if you use GitHub, I mean, everyone doesn't use GitHub, of course, but for those who don't, of course, we should have such a webhook service deployed that will respond and would then just have as a sole purpose to send CDEvents and maybe feedback information if possible as well.
Yeah, so like the SDK, should just be like the SDK for like sending and getting events. And for this particular one, it's like its own separate server. It would be a separate thing inside of CDEvent. It would be a separate repo, is how I would see it.
Separate component or separate service in the cluster running. I would say so. But I say the SDK would be used to sending events, but also then to parse events that it can read on the message bus for the bus event bus. Cool. So should we maybe then get back to the more the most interesting topic, I guess, for today? Unless there is something else you want to raise for it, because I guess this would take the rest of the meeting, I'm afraid. Sean, do you have anything else you would like to talk about before we get into the connecting events discussion a bit more?
No, I'm good.
Very good, thanks. And Ben as well. Otherwise, I guess you say.
I think we talked about everything that I had on my mind.
So I know that this PR now has been around for a long time, and there are updates frequently to it, and we comment on it not as frequently, but anyway, sometimes.
It's no worries.
So I'm thinking now, what is the best way forward? Of course, well, one way is then to more or less merge this as is. Of course, we need to just double check that
the updates.
Part of it. And then maybe additional to that, we could create another pull request to provide an optional way to do the same thing, more or less, to have it included in the events themselves in the spec. And that's
doing the optional one, like I can do that today. Like that's not too big of a deal. So I can actually have that done today, and we can, if we're talking about merging it, we can probably merge. Let's plan to merge it. Let's say by the end of this week. Let's make that the goal. And let me try to. I will get the optional fields there. The reason why I say that now is just so we don't have to version bump again. So we just do one version bump, and it just has all the link specific stuff in it.
Sounds cool. When it comes to time when it can be reviewed and merged, since there is KubeCon this week and Andrea is off there.
Right.
I don't expect him to be too much able to review things during the days at least, or nights, or whatever. So, and I would of course, anyway, like to have Andreas +2.
Should we make the goal then, like maybe 2 weeks from now? Do you think?
Yeah.
Would be okay.
I would say we talk about it on the CDEvents working group next Monday, and the goal should be then that we merge it next Friday.
Okay, sounds good to me.
So let's do this then. Oh, sorry. What happens with my keyboard? When will update the PR with the optional?
I will. So the thing is, I have to add the fields, and then I also need to update the docs, right? Which is the CDEvents websites. What is that?
The
It's a
context
website.
of, which is
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this website. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So I'll update that as well, and that will just be a separate PR with
and then they
the
should be
information.
in a good way.
Works
Cool.
for me.
Great. So my idea now is that we look into the comments a bit. Would that be okay with you, Ben? That we look into
Yeah.
comment
Let's
that is
go.
still outstanding, that isn't really.
Yeah, like there's some comments I'm just like, I don't know if this is still like necessary. Like, I don't know if I address this or what, but yeah.
I mean, many comments are old, and some of them are, they are of course outdated, but they still could be relevant also in the new version of it, but not updated and towards the latest version.
Right.
I'm so frustrated on this GUI here because it's so hard to follow and to see what has happened and to see towards which change was this comment made and so on. It's possible, more or less.
I really dislike I mean, I do like GitHub though. How they do the reviews is not friendly. So I completely agree.
We use Garrett internally always, and
that's
okay. Totally different thing to this. And I'm not completely on board there either. That is the best way to do it, but it's completely different to how GitHub does it, and it has its pros, both of them, I would say. So yeah, some middle ground would be good, I guess.
Right.
But this one is something I asked Andrea, which he hasn't answered on. And then this is the same. And then we have something to Dan here, which I haven't heard from for long, so I don't know. He has any ideas there. This is also now old, outdated, which I believe should be okay to merge. I mean, these headers are not there anymore, so that should be.
Yeah, they're gone now.
But I would like Andrea is to sign off and say that it's okay.
Yeah.
And this is the same towards Andrea. And then I have some comment. And sometimes when you do a comment, it will create a new comment in the end of the pull request.
Oh, I know. It's super weird.
And here, this is what we talked about now, to declare them as optional in the protocol as well. Double thing. So that's what we aim to do now. That's great. Then there are some hidden conversations.
I always miss those. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Yep.
What about this one? Yeah, here's actually something that is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if this is still valid. Let us do this then. We can open that up in the side here.
Let's see, I can actually look at it as well.
I can see it. That's well. We can see if it's still relevant or not.
Oh no, it got changed. Yeah, I added a spell checker to my Vim. So
is it done or?
Yeah, it's propagation now.
Yeah, okay. Then we can close that. I'm not sure why I didn't see that before. I looked into these comments earlier today, but I didn't see this one.
Yeah, it was hidden. It was like that.
It's unresolved there. It says it's still resolved. So why is it shown? Hide resolved. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Got it.
One hidden conversation. Is that because it is?
Oh, there we go.
This one is not yet
resolved. Oh, yeah. I saw that one. Yeah.
Oh, too bad. Okay, but I guess that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Then we have something for Elm's data here. Elm, what is it called now? I think it's Elm, right? Not heard anything more there. Then this is probably not. Oh, well, there's a long discussion here, and maybe the
yeah. This was a super long one. Yeah.
Okay, there is something you can maybe consider this, or this might not need to be considered if we now do it the new optional way.
Yeah.
Case to dedicated issue. Well, what was this about now?
Oh, so this was
Federation.
the
Okay, so this is a use case where you federate different message buses or event buses.
yes. I ended up just moving them out of this. So I have a tech document where all
Yeah.
the technical stuff is in a separate document.
That exists now.
Was that?
That does it exist now? That tech document or?
Oh, I didn't put in this PR. So, but the idea is this tech document is because, mind you, I just pulled stuff out and just put it in there. I didn't like structure it any. The idea is once this is merged, I'm gonna create a folder inside of this. I don't know if it's a folder or maybe a separate repo because this is just spec. Maybe a separate repo might be better, but like maybe call it like architecture or something like that goes over like the technical specifications of like, or just like some guidelines and things of that nature with like the links services, ideas, things of that nature, and like the different use cases, and talks about all that jazz.
But do you still think this should be mentioned here in this PR then? But then we break it out.
This one?
We break it out
Separate
next later, or because it might be like an edge thing that might not be needed for the service from the beginning.
Yeah. I think we added that originally to kind of like paint the picture of like, but it doesn't need to be in the final document. I think this was just kind of like help, everyone that was reading it kind of understand the different like use cases and whatnot. So I'll definitely move them out. I thought I moved this one out. I might have missed this one. That might have been the problem.
Confused more than it helped, maybe to some use.
Was that?
So maybe it's good to move it out.
Yeah.
That comment is still there then.
Okay, cool. I'll move that out.
Right. What's the next? And is this the long discussion? No, this is the. This is probably not. And you have the. So we are discussing it now, so I guess that's fine. This might be. Reference architecture.
Oh, that's why I included that's why I included those that multiple event buses and
is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that really the same thing then?
Let me see. In the future, having a reference architecture might help.
Goals here. Connect events retrieved quickly. How things occurred. But is this really related to that multiple event system or setup?
I'm not too sure. I don't know what. I really don't. Actually, I don't know what Andrea was asking for, to be honest. So okay. I just think, yeah, because he said a reference. Oh, wait, no, I do remember what he was talking about. Okay, so he mentioned this last week or the week before. He mentioned a CD, the CDEvents like picture, like the flow chart or the architect's picture that usually happens when Andre gives his talks. He wanted that in this document. So I'll be sure I'll add that.
Okay, maybe that would help. Maybe so, okay.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Would you then add the link service there, you think, to the picture, or?
Yeah. I'll add to it. I'll see if I can just take that.
I guess it's not a bitmap picture, it's some kind of vector format or some. I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, okay. If it's a vector format, then yeah.
You can ask Andrea for the source of it, I guess.
Okay, cool. That might work.
Yeah, good. This some nits there. Sequential.
Oh yeah. He was talking about chain. I was like, chain's not technically sequential, and then he was like, oh, okay. And then
I'm not sure if this is something we need to keep.
Yeah. He was okay with chain.
Yeah.
This
one I think is. I'm not sure if this is solved.
I fixed that. Over the weekend.
Oh, good. So I should be able to see that somewhere here then. Start and relation group, start and relation. Now, so that is now it's correct because this was different. Right?
Yep.
Thanks. So then I resolve this now. Thank you, Ben. What happens then? Oh, this is something else.
Yeah, this was talking about like it being freeform. So I think I did change that to be freeform.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
it
yeah, I
was,
did. Yeah.
you know,
So now it's just a freeform. So the yeah
string value
is
instead of a,
yeah.
yeah, that's perfect. So that's fine now as well. Was there some, yeah, right. That should be fine then. I guess I can resolve that comment as well then.
Mhm.
Is it this one? Yes, it should be free text field. Yeah, that's resolved. Thank you. What's the next? Oh, then GitHub moves away. So this is the next one. Start and stop links.
Yeah, I reworded that a little bit better,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, I haven't read it, the new one, so maybe it's easier to understand now.
Yeah, let me read it to you, and
Yeah.
let me hear your guys. I want to hear both of your guys' thoughts here because, like I said, it makes sense to me. But then when I get it from you, I'm like, okay, maybe. And then when I reread it, I'm like, oh, I can see why I got confused by that. So basically, it says further, when links are created from a producer and consumer point of view, the producer will not know what is consuming an event. This makes connecting CD events to one another difficult from a producer's point of view. To mitigate this, links will be constructed from the consumer with the exceptions of the start and stop links. When a service knows how CD events are connected, the service can choose to connect them themselves. A good example of this is when a service runs tests. There is no need for the consumer to construct this and can all be done from the service running the tests.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so I think maybe what you're after, that within a, if it is a test service that sends a lot of events, of course those individual sub-services, whatever, that send the events might not know what they are connected to. Is it so then that you think that the overarching test service is the one that should set up those links, or is it really the consumer?
It should probably always be the consumer, in my opinion. The reason why is because the consumer knows the parent that's sending it, because that's the thing that it's consuming, right? So it knows how to connect it.
No, consumer does only listens to the bus and does only know.
But it knows the but it knows, like, for instance, when it says like a source changed event, right? It can say, oh, the source change event, I know to connect it to that parent, right? With its context ID. It has all that information. It's literally that
in the
CE
event.
event.
Yeah.
So that's why it makes sense for consumers to make that connections rather than the producers to make the connections.
Do you mean that the consumer could do it based on the data that is already in the event?
Exactly. Yes.
Because it sees that there's different source, the context IDs or whatever they're called now, the subject IDs.
Yep. And the chain ID as well. Yep.
Okay, so that's how it is. So they don't think that the producer of the later event, so to say, knows.
It has. It's a black box from the producer's point of view, and it's better to think about it that way. I mean, like I said, like it could probably know about like what tests are going to be run and of that nature, because that could be all contained in one system. However, once you start moving from system to system, the producer doesn't know what the other system is going to be consuming this. It doesn't know, right?
Unless the producer is triggered by an event. Because if the producer is really, the flow in the producer is triggered by some other event, then it would, of course, see that event when starting its own flow and could then relate the events to each other.
Yes. But then the producer would then be also a consumer in that regard, right?
Yeah, you could see it that way, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so if we see it that way, yeah, I'm just thinking so if you have a test system again, and you have like 5 different test cases executed, and they are all sending events for them, then of course the test system itself knows that I first send this test event, and I send this test case event, and I send this test case event. And there are interconnections between those events. That's only the producer that knows that. The consumer just sees 5 individual test case events.
Yes, but that
might be connected to a test activity, but not connected to each other. So that's, I guess that's what I'm asking after here.
Yeah. So that, but yeah, think about what is the use case for that though, right? Like, so when a consumer is listening for an individual test case event, it makes sense for it to connect itself to it, right? Because that's what it's listening on. That's the point of links, right? It tells you what is listening to what, how this all connects together, and what is the whole flow of all, from conception to the end of life, right? It tells you the whole producer consumer relationship, right? So if things are listening to things on a test case level, it will be graphed that way. But if you have a service that's listening to just the service, the producer in this case, just its events of, like, let's say in this case might be pipeline finished, it would then send the pipeline finished and draw that graph. So it would draw that complete graph.
The consumer would, or
the consumer would.
Okay, but the graph, how can the consumer know in which order the test cases were executed, and if they were executed after each other or in parallel, for example?
Yeah. So if that
unless
is
they are interconnected.
So the consumer is just saying, like, when it's getting a single test case, right? So if it's just listening for one test, it's just saying I'm connected to this. That's all it's saying. But if you have a producer that says, I know how all these tests are going to be called one after another, then it can do its job and connect them appropriately, right?
Yeah, and that would be easier to do within the events themselves, to say that this test case comes after this test case. So this test case runs in parallel to this other test case through some data in the events.
I mean, you could, sure, but we're talking about something different though, right? In that case.
Yeah, maybe, but that's what I associate with, I guess, when you talk about that someone should say how the events are related, because to me that's knowledge that the producer has. When it executes certain things in a certain order, it can also tell them, anyone listening to it, that this was the order I did this in. These actions were performed in this order, and the causal relationships between them are this and that, and they were done.
Yeah. But in that case, if you're interested in the order of things, and not a single test case, you should probably be listening to the test suite event in that case. No?
But the test suite is just like a bag with some name on it. It doesn't say.
Yeah, but it's still perfectly fine. But you got to remember, the test suite is going to have links between the test suite and the test cases.
Yeah, for sure.
So if something's listening on the test suite, it's going to get the test suite event, which then it can query the link service to get all the test cases that are associated. In the bag, and it will tell you the relationship of, like, when they started and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but not if they were done after each other in parallel. That bag.
If they're in parallel, then it's in parallel. Like, there's nothing, it's going to show you they're in parallel. Like, right? Like,
no, it won't, because so if there are dependencies between the events, so you would like to see, when you troubleshoot these executions of the tests, you would like to see, well, this failed, and that was maybe because this other test wasn't really done yet, or there's a dependency that we didn't know of, so it needs to wait for it. So that kind of troubleshooting possibilities won't be there unless you have a way to sort out the connection between them.
I don't know. If you have test suites if you have a test case that depends on another test case, then that would be a separate CD event where the parent in this, or the producer in this case, is that first test, and then the consumer would be that second test that's being ran, right? Like that. That's
it might be an implicit dependency. I mean,
no. This is solved already. Actually, no. This is solved already, because there is well, it's kind of solved. it's almost like you need an approval between like for this one to start almost. Because now what you're asking for is like if you care about the what the actual test, when they were ran, like the actual structure of them, which can be shown, and how and how that's done is with timestamps. So
But
that's how
good enough.
that's how
material. Yeah.
no, that's how tracing works. So tracing, how you know something is in parallel versus not, is just by looking at whether or not this thing is, happening at the same time. And then
But
it shows one after.
It can be queues and such in between as well. You can't know.
Oh yeah, of course. But if tracing doesn't care about it, links should not care about it.
Oh, links should care. That's the difference, I guess, between tracing and links, because then you would like to be able to show that this actually happens in this order. If you maybe not think about test case executions, but rather pipeline task executions, then we can see a pipeline where we have 10 different tasks. We would like to know, of course, which order those tasks were done in, and if they were in parallel or not. And that's not either today possible with the current events we have today without any links between them.
Right.
Yes, see that they all belong to the same pipeline, but they don't know in which order they were executed. Except timestamps, of course.
Yeah. In this case, this is where the producer, whoever's like setting up those tasks, would have to connect them one after another, like that. Yeah. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but okay, now I see what you're trying to say. Yeah. Okay, I get it now. Yes, you're correct.
All right. Oh, time's up, I see. Oh, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So, I think we're having great discussions anyways. That's cool.
Yeah.
We didn't really
does that paragraph answer what you were saying? I think that covers both of what you were talking about, where when the producer knows how things are connected, it should, if it wants to, it can connect them. But by default, the consumers are going to do the connections. Well, consumers are always going to connect. Consumers, like any sort of external event, is always going to, any external service different from the producer is always going to connect itself to the parent or the incoming CD event.
No, but if you say that the consumer could also be a producer, I mean that's in an event-driven system. That's how it works, I guess.
Yes.
The consumer is also the producer, and then
yes.
Then it makes sense. I was more considering consumer like something that sits on top of it and just observes, like a visibility engine.
Oh, got it.
And that visibility engine could, of course, not connect the things unless the producer can say that this is how it's connected.
Right.
Great. I think I get it now.
Okay.
This maybe it's a term of producer and consumer, and then also
right.
Service, what a service is, but whatever. But I think you have a few things then to look into the comments there, and cool. I'll try to be a bit active tomorrow on responding on comments.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll get the comments handled today based off of what we talked about. I'll also add the optional links to the schema. And then once I get that done later today, probably tomorrow, I'll have the website PR up for the explaining of all the new fields and whatnot.
I will be off on Wednesday, unfortunately, due to.
Oh, okay. And then one other question is, are we comfortable squashing these commits? The reason why I ask is because I want to sign the commits, and I don't want to sign every single one commit. So I wonder if it's better now just to squash the commit and then just sign the one, and then.
Yeah, I guess that could be done. I'm not fond of the GitHub interface anyway, but if they would be separate, then it would be easier. At least when you look at them in this PR view up here.
Yeah, it makes them easier. Yeah. Okay, what I'll do is whenever you guys are ready, let me know, and I can squash the commits and then sign it. Maybe that's a better approach.
Yeah, maybe that's better. So let's go through and approve it first, and then we just sign it, and then we just squash it, or then we just cool.
All right, that works for me.
Yeah, great. So good talking to you all.
All right, thank you.
So see you next time.
All right, I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.